Hey witches, welcome back to my channel. This is Wordy Witch Writes and I'm your host Deidre. Today I want to take some time to talk about one of my new favorite novels. You've probably seen it on your Instagram, your Bookstagram, YouTube, other people talking about it. It came out this past summer, but it has really resonated with me and I haven't been able to stop thinking about it since I've read it. I originally got this book from the library because it was classified as a romantasy, and I'm not a huge romance reader. I write in it occasionally, but it's not my favorite genre to read in, which is one reason that I have stopped writing in it. I think you should actively read in the genre that you write in. That way you're aware of the tropes and the reader expectations and everything that goes along with writing in that genre. So a lot of my focus over the last year has been reading cozy paranormal mysteries or just cozy mysteries, just so I get more familiar with that genre. And I really love that genre, but I wanted a break from it. I also sometimes I read a lot on my tablet in the Kindle app, but sometimes you just need a book, you know? And so I kept seeing this show up. It was considered as a romantasy, but I also saw it classified as a cozy fantasy. And I was kind of interested in how you do cozy fantasy. Growing up, fantasy was like one of my top genres. Like, I have all of the Lord of the Rings. I read all of them. I was obsessed with the Lord of the Rings movies. I knew that they did a terrible job. Like, it wasn't, maybe terrible's a not great word, but they didn't do a great job of translating that, especially the Return of the King. Um, and then the Hobbit movies happened, which I loved the actors in it, so I saw it, but it really deviated from the book at times. And then um, another series that I loved and I read in high school was the Robert Jordan series, Wheel of Time. I'm looking at it over here, that's why I'm saying it. And you can see, like, I have one of them if I can get it off the shelf because they're really jammed in there. I'm running out of room. It's like, I read, like, it's so thick. I read it. I don't even know, but I loved this series. Um, Loved all the characters. Just fantasy was my jam for a really long time. And then I went to college and I just stopped reading in college. As an English major, I had to read a lot of like literature, old white men writing and talk about it. And then teaching, I had to read a lot of young adult fiction and I had to like read it with the teacher in mind. So only it's been in the last like 5 years that I've really gotten back into reading, and I was reading a lot of thrillers, which I really enjoy, and horror novels, things like that. And then this last year, I've switched to cozy mysteries. So this was kind of a step out of bounds for me, but I guess long overdue. The book that I read was The Spell Shop by Sarah Beth Durst. And I know you've probably seen it, but if someone comes up to me right now and says, I need a really good book to read, what do you recommend? This is going to be the first thing that I tell them to read. It is a romantasy, it is a cozy fantasy, but it doesn't have, like, those are just kind of like woven so well together in here that I didn't hate the romance plot, and I don't know if I would classify it as a cozy. It doesn't have a mystery. Like, she's trying to solve a problem, I guess, in a small town, but everyone knows why the problem is there. It's not like a mystery. Everyone knows that this has been going on forever and that someone has let them down, and she's trying to solve that problem the best way that she can. So this book, if you don't know what it is, and maybe you haven't heard of it, is about a woman named, I want to say Keela, is how you say her name, and her spider plant assistant who worked at a library in the capital city when the capital city is taken over by the rebels trying to overthrow the government, and they burn down the library. And she, as a librarian, does her best to save as many books as she can. The thing about this library is the books are all magic books, so they have spells in them. And it's illegal for anyone to read those spells unless they're given permission by the government. So she's not even supposed to like be looking at them. So she saves as many books as she can and she flees to her hometown, which is on an island, very remote, very far away. And she hides the books, and then she has to start interacting with the townspeople There was one cringy moment in the book that I was like, ugh, if this book is going to be like this the whole time. But it only happened the one time. And then as I got to know Keela better, I think I understood why she did what she did in that moment. But when it happened, I wasn't a huge fan. I'm not a huge, like I said, romance reader. And there was a nice undertone romance plot to this. And like the way that she develops in her thinking about the romance based on her character and where she came from, it made total sense. Another thing I really loved that this author did was how natural it felt that centaurs were sitting in town having tea, and there were other magical creatures just around. It was just like going down the street and seeing, as if a centaur was just living next door to you. It was no big deal. And I just loved the way that she wove the magic elements in, the creativity, the casualness of it. I loved all the characters. My favorite character was actually the spider plant. He was so funny. He was so caring. He was so, I don't know, he was such a big personality for being a plant. It was not what you would expect. And I also have read online, I don't know if it's true, I probably should do more research, but I read that she's writing a prequel to explaining how the spider plant came to being, and I will definitely be picking that up. The cover itself is just gorgeous. I love this cover. There's so many little details in it that now I'm looking at it again and I'm like, oh, yeah, I get why that's there now. And then also, I don't know why, and I don't really know what this is called when the publishers are doing this color on the sides, especially since most of us store our books to the side, but maybe we'll all start doing it like this, which then I don't think that would work because you won't know what book it is, but it's just so pretty. It's like, just makes me happy looking at it. And I think that's what my biggest takeaway from this book was. That after I read it, I was like giddy for a day. It just made me so happy. The ending went so well. The characters were so good. The story was good. It was just made me happy. And that's not something that happens very often. Like, I like books and I enjoy them, but to feel happy after reading them was just such a good experience to have, and not something I had had in a while. And it reignited my love of fantasy. So I'm exploring this genre a little bit more. I've picked up another book. Well, actually, my husband picked it out. We were out doing groceries, and this was at Sam's on the shelf. Fourth Wing, which I'm sure you've seen. It's huge right now. But it also does the cool details on the pages with the dragons. My husband actually read this book in 3 days. He really enjoyed it. I think it is in that fantasy romance category. The romance isn't a huge downer for me in this. If you like dragons and you like fighting and you like political undertones, but it's not like in your face politics, then you'd probably really like that book. I'm about halfway through, and maybe in a couple of weeks I'll talk to you about that. My husband's actually almost done with the second one, and he was asking me today when the third one comes out because he wants to keep reading that series. So if you're looking for a book that, and also I was going to ask you guys, right now my bookmark is a losing lottery ticket. What's the weirdest thing you've ever put in your book to keep as a bookmark? Because I can't ever find my bookmarks. I know I have them, I just don't know where they are. So I usually just grab the thing that's closest to me, and this time it was a little $2 scratch ticket. And I use a lot of receipts as well. I've used other books. I've used pens, which was probably not smart. Nothing happened, but highlighters, sticky notes, things like that. So if you want to, drop in the comments the weirdest thing you've ever used as a bookmark, and we'll see who has the weirdest thing. So yeah, if you're looking for a book that will make you happy, I highly recommend this book. It made me want to read fantasy again. And then who knows, after I'm done with this series, maybe I'll write a cozy fantasy series. If you have a cozy fantasy series too that you recommend, that's an actual cozy mystery series, set in a fantasy world, I would love to read it. So if you could drop that in the comments below as well, that'd be really helpful. If you're enjoying these videos, I would love it if you could subscribe and hit that bell so whenever I post a new video, you're alerted and you can give it a watch. All right, guys, thank you so much. I can't wait to talk to you. Until next time, bye, witches.